Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Aaliyah Mabel. I work as the Employer Relations Specialist at IUN. Again, I just want to say thank you for coming today. I'm excited to introduce Parker Dewey because it's an easy and accessible way for students to gain paid real world experience while also connecting with employers. This also benefits employers as well because they get to connect with talented students and start at the beginning and then hopefully turn those micro internships into employment. So I would love to turn this over to Jeff, the founder of Parker Dewey, so he can tell you more about this program.
Thanks so much, and a real pleasure to be here. Couple of housekeeping notes. First of all, I am a grad of your sister school down in Bloomington, so I'm still coming off the high of the past, I guess, month or really this entire football season. So I will say go Hoosiers. A couple of housekeeping things though before we begin. First of all, if you see me looking to the right, it's because I have the chat up. So please, don't be bashful during the session. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, whatever, feel free to use the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on them as we go through and answer questions. Again, as we're going through the presentation, we'll certainly also save some time for the end, but please don't be bashful. Second, we will be recording this and sharing the slides afterwards. I know that question always comes up. So again, we'll be sending that around. So with that, let's kick this off. So real quickly, what we're going to cover today is a few things. First, we're going to give an overview of what's going on in early career recruiting. We're not going to spend that much time. We're going to spend about a minute talking about what a micro-internship is. I know some people have heard of it or have sort of their perception of what it is. We're going to talk about the way we define it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go into some actionable strategies that anyone on this call can apply right now. Whether you're an organization that's done with their campus recruiting for the year, whether you haven't begun yet, whether you don't normally do campus recruiting, but you just need some help, we're going to talk about strategies that you can leverage. We're then going to spend a couple of minutes talking about a program funded by the Indiana Economic Development Corp that lets you do this with no cost. There is not a catch. It lets the students still get paid. You still get all of the benefits, but through the very generous support of IEDC, you get to work with the IU Northwest students. And again, they're picking up the tab. So with that, let's jump into it. So first, early career challenges that we hear from companies. First of all, we all know this. Costs are increasing with the benefits continuing to go down. Companies on average spend over $6,000 for every entry-level hire they make, and about 50% of them leave within the first year. So it's becoming more and more expensive, and meanwhile, the results are becoming less positive. Now, again, we know how important early career recruiting is, so that's something that needs to be solved. The second challenge is how do you keep those students engaged? That you show up to the career fair taking place in April 17th, I guess, at IU Northwest. How do you keep that student warm between then and the time that you're ready to hire, or you presenting in a class? We know students are blocking the recruiting emails. They don't want to get spammed. The third challenge we hear is the application avalanche. What we've seen is massive increase in the number of applications every employer needs to go through, whether it's because of one-click job applications, AI, or any number of other things. We're inundated. So we see this massive increase in applications, but it's really hard to figure out who actually has not only the right skills, but actually the intent and interest in your organization. And then finally, we're seeing overarching attacks on early career programs, whether they're the news articles or news reports or press or things we're hearing from others, even hiring managers. Why do we have interns? Why do we need to have new hires? It's under attack, and I think everyone on this call knows how valuable early career programs are. So what we're going to do is talk about how to address these challenges. So as quick background, Parker Dewey is a 10-year-old organization that is 100% focused on helping improve those pathways from college to career. We're not replacing college. We're not replacing the career center. We're not a new assessment or any of those other things we've heard about. We plug right into the existing systems to address some of those challenges and partner with colleges and universities like IU Northwest to help do that. So again, we are a complement. This is something that has 10 years of data demonstrating the success of this, as we'll talk through. The ways companies plug this into what they do is really across the board. Again, let's say you're planning on visiting IU Northwest on April 17th. You can use Parker Dewey to help drive engagement of students who might not be aware of your company or thinking about the role or might not be able to participate in on-campus events. As I said, after the event, to keep the students warm. We're going to talk about how you can use this to build interview lists to get insights on those skills and actual interest earlier in the process. For those employers that can't visit campus, that know how amazing the IU Northwest students are but can't be there this year, still a great way to engage. And then obviously for all of us as a flexible resource, a way to get some on-demand support for those small-term projects that always seem to come up. So I talked a little bit about micro-internships. What are they? Micro-internships are a recruiting tool. They are not a replacement for summer internships or full-time roles. I always like to make that clear. Think about micro-internships as job dates, if you will. They are very, very short-term professional projects that you give to college students or recent grads as a way to do a few things. One, get insights on their skills. See if they have not just the technical skills required for the role, but the communication, problem solving, attention to detail, timeliness, etc. These are very, very short-term projects. They're projects that take a student 10, 20, 30 hours to complete. The types of tasks we all have on our to-do list, that would be perfect for a summer intern or new hire, but there's just not enough hours in the day to get it done. And it's January. Summer interns don't start. Their new hires are busy. These are projects that are completed independently. So they're not the types of tasks that are bet the company or require a whole bunch of onboarding and training. These are tasks like conducting research or drafting articles or helping identify leads. One other thing to note is these are paid assignments. Students are paid for their work. And again, in this case, it's through the IEDC, which I'll talk more about. But this ensures every one of the students has access, not just the rich kids. We don't want these students who could be great hires or do a great job for you not able to participate because they require or rely on driving an Uber or a part-time job to pay for rent or books or food. These projects are paid and paid fairly, usually $200, $300, $400. There are also no HR burdens. They're not your employees. They're not your contractors. This makes it really easy. So what's great is I might have a project I'm trying to get done. I'm trying to figure out a new strategy for employee engagement. I'd love someone to do some research for me, pull best practices, get some insights. Perfect example of a micro internship. Something anyone on this call that's in HR is probably trying to do, have on their plate for 2026. So while it's a great way to get that project off your plate, it's also a great way to get all of these additional insights. So while they're helping get that task done, you're able to see their skills, not just, again, the technical ones, but communication, timeliness, problem solving. You're able to get insights into various schools, various majors, looking beyond those traditional feeders, starting to reach students who might be interested in your company but not be aware of it. All of these are at your fingertips using that discrete project as a catalyst. One of the things we also do is maybe you don't have a project on your plate. You're one of the lucky ones with an empty to-do list. One of the other things we'll do is we'll actually take an existing job description, in this case, an entry-level data marketing role. And this is the meat from the job description that that company has out there that they place on the job boards. And what we'll actually do is highlight some of the key aspects of it. Again, gathering and analyzing data, doing a competitor analysis, providing recommendations, and we'll actually craft one of these micro internships that aligns. Again, a project a student could do in 10, 15, 20 hours on their own without you sharing info. And not only does it allow them to do that project and engage them, you're getting insights on their skills earlier in the process. You're getting insights on their ability to conduct market research or analyze data, but also communication, intellectual curiosity. all plugged right into the system. And before spending time flipping through resumes, hosting phone screens, or conducting interviews. Now, again, we've made this really easy. This is going to be an overarching theme. Everything we've done is designed to be easy. It's designed specifically not to add to your workload. And the whole process is 3 steps. You post the project, pick who you want, and the work gets done. And I'll show you how that works. Posting a project, as I said, you could take a task that you have on the to-do list, you could send us a job description, or you can use any of the templates that we have. All we need to know is what's the project that needs to be done? I need someone to analyze best practices for new hire onboarding. I'm going to a conference next week. I need help crunching a list. I'd love someone to review job descriptions that we have and make some suggestions on how to make them more enticing. All of those are perfect examples. Again, 10, 15, 20 hours of work by the student. You don't have to share anything confidential or sensitive. They can use all public info. When you're posting your project, you can also select IU Northwest from the drop-down list. And that way it's only available to those amazing students at IU Northwest, really complementing what you're doing with the school. Once the project is posted, you can sort of wipe your hands and wait a couple of days. The students then apply. And to be clear, this is not a one-click job application where you're going to get inundated with thousands of resumes and can't really figure out who's got the right skills or the interest. We've developed some tools within the system to make sure that the students have a little bit of skin in the game. It's not a heavy lift for them. We're not asking them to spend hours or doing comprehensive assessments or anything, but it requires about 3, 5, 7 minutes of work for a student to apply. This helps ensure that the candidates you're seeing have actual interest in the role. It also gives you insights to see their skills, even before you select them for a project. You're able to, again, see short answer questions, student resume, and other insights, again, to really select who you want based upon your goals. Once you select the project or the student, you kick off the project. What I typically suggest is a 15-minute Zoom call. I always like hopping on the Zoom with the student or students I select, really just to answer any questions, make sure I'm providing any clarity. I think it's also a great way to build relationships. Once you do that, the students are on their own. They're off executing the project on your behalf. They're also leveraging the resources that IU Northwest provides, whether it's faculty members, alumni, library services, or other resources. That way you're confident that they're getting or they're delivering a great project to you and they're getting a great experience. Again, we have an entire team here along the way if you have questions. And when the project's completed, all you have to do is leave some feedback. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes, but it's incredibly valuable for the students and for the school. Beyond getting support on the project, it's a great way to connect with emerging talent. Again, start to build relationships with individuals, whether you're actively hiring right now, great way to build that talent pipeline, or maybe you don't know what your needs are going to be next month or next year. You're starting to build those relationships and you're able to do so in a way that it goes beyond the resume. You're seeing their skills. Again, the skills that make the difference. Are they turning in the work on time? Are they showing attention to detail? It also feels really good. You're giving a student an opportunity to sort of demonstrate their skills and build their resume without, again, adding to your workload. Which is going to bring us to the next part of the presentation. I'm going to go through 3 examples of how various employers are using micro-internships in Parker Dewey right now to align to their campus recruiting process. So again, in addition to the on-demand support, we're going to talk through how they're doing this tied to building or deepening the relationship with schools like IU Northwest. The first example is a company in the healthcare space. They were going to campus every year, and they were planning to skip this year, partially because they just weren't finding the traffic or the traction they wanted at the career fair booth. They were also finding that they were getting plenty of students interested in healthcare, but not for those other roles, the marketing, the sales, the technology, the finance. Again, they were looking for innovative strategies to do that, coupled with the fact it's a highly competitive space. So with those students, they were also looking to build deeper relationships than what they were finding they were doing from the info session to the career fair alone. So what they did is we created a series of micro-internships aligned to those entry-level roles. We posted them. Students were applying even before the company was on campus. What it was doing was driving students to show up to the career fair booth, to the info session. The company also had insights on which students were engaging. So they could personally invite them to various events or make sure that the hiring manager that was joining, who was focused on finance, was meeting with Jeff, the finance major. The outcome of this was over a 3x increase in their career fair traffic and the packed info session. The other thing that was really interesting to me was from their internal survey, they found that over 80% of the students who engaged were those who weren't previously thinking about this organization. So it was truly reaching the students that they were trying to reach, to build those relationships and help them get the most out of the career fair and the in the second case, this organization, a very, very well-known brand that has a network of health club franchises, health club's probably the wrong term, but I'll use it because I can't think of a better one, had very, very strong brand recognition, and they would get a ton of students at the event. But they had some challenges. They were finding, first of all, some of the students who were applying or who were showing up at the events were just interested in roles being a trainer or working the front desk at one of the retail locations as a part-time job. The other issue they were finding is for those students who were highly engaged or at the event and highly interested, it was hard to keep them engaged afterwards. So what they identified a project that needed to be done. They had a task where they needed someone. Whoops, I have the wrong one. They had a task that needed to be done across different departments, and what they wound up doing was again posting the project and using it at the career fair. The one talk about those different departments where students were coming again beyond just the one area, but what they were also doing is using it to keep the students warm afterwards. That when the student was getting the email, it was no longer, we invite you to apply in 6 months, but it was, hey, here's a real project on our supply chain team or a real project on our tech team that you can look at and apply to as a way to keep them engaged. The outcome is where it matters. 3x increase in email engagement rate. So again, while 54% of students report blocking emails, this organization found that just wasn't happening. They were engaging students the way they wanted to be engaged. Ultimately, where it really mattered, though, was 90% off for the higher rate. So it wasn't just about sort of the check the box, they clicked on the email, they showed up to the event. It actually led to building the relationships that enhance conversion. In the last example, it was the application avalanche. This is an organization that was getting, again, more applications than ever. Students were click, 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 applying to everything. So what they did is they, again, went to a hiring manager who had a task. It was someone in the HR department, not tied to talent acquisition or campus recruiting, but someone tied to the learning and development team. And that individual had a project that needed to get done. We want to evaluate new hire onboarding across other organizations. They posted the project and picked 3 students. One of the students they selected was a 3.9 GPA studying HR from a highly prestigious school. Looked amazing on paper. This is what she turned in. Again, the deliverable was intended to be a 1-page executive summary with supporting info. This is sort of the screenshot of the 1-page summary. There's some good insights in here. But again, this is a 3.9 GPA from a super prestigious school. There's also some typos. It's not really formatted in an easy to read way. There's some grammatical errors. In contrast, one of the other students they selected for the project had a lower GPA. Not as prestigious as a school, didn't look as great on paper. Wasn't even studying HR. I think she was a humanities major. This was the executive summary of what she turned in. It's pretty obvious just from a second of looking. This student sort of can craft something in a way that a hiring manager can quickly understand. They can empathize. The student showed her ability to problem solve. While she wasn't an HR major, she identified the right areas. She was able to demonstrate empathy and putting her in the shoes of the hiring manager who was actually using this. Again, all of those skills that are really tough to see from a resume or even an interview that show up, again, top of funnel. This organization wound up ultimately hiring the student on the right for a summer internship and a full-time role. 2 years later, she's still there. They found that by using this process to, again, identify and assess both intent and skills earlier in the process, it led to an 80% faster time to hire with 70% lower cost and overall 98% first year retention. The impact of using this approach is real. I really want to highlight this. 40 to 80% cost savings. And that's even with paying the students for the work. The difference is, as opposed to putting it in the money of some venture-backed software company, the money's going into the students' pockets for doing real work. You're building those real relationships. When they accept that full-time role, they don't job hop because they've been able to, back to the earlier metaphor, go on these job dates before getting engaged with the summer internship or married with the full-time role. And it truly creates equitable pathways. Again, we are a platform open to everyone. We don't care what your background is. We don't care where you go to school or who your parents are. And what we found is over 80% of the students ultimately selected for micro-internships come from populations underrepresented in the workforce, not just racial or ethnic diversity, but we look at things like veterans, adult learners, first gen, helping organizations do this not out of charity or social impact, though that's certainly wonderful, but do it because it improves hiring outcomes, which is what makes it sustainable. So this is the favorite part, or my favorite part of the presentation, when I get to be Santa, although I guess it's January, so it's a little dated, that through the very generous support of the Indiana Economic Development Corp, everything I showed you, you can try for free. IEDC is covering 100% of the cost. There's nothing you need to apply for. It's not a grant. There's no forms you need to fill out, no commitment. It's not a reimbursement. You can simply post projects for IU Northwest students, like I showed you. They'll apply. You select who you want. Everything like I showed you. The only difference is, as opposed to you getting an invoice for the $200, $300, $400 for the project, that's covered by IEDC. IEDC is doing this for a few reasons. One, they're trying to support the students who go to school at Indiana's public universities. What a great way to help create those pathways and provide experiential learning, but they're also doing it to support the employers, both employers who need an extra set of hands on small projects, but also alumni who want to give back, or those companies that are looking to hire and keep talent in state. What a great way to show the benefits to the IU students, IU Northwest students, of the opportunities with your organization. And what you get with this program is not just the micro-internships, but all of the data, all of the insights, everything to complement what you're already doing with IU Northwest, or if you're not yet working with the school, a great way to dip your toe in the water. So here's my suggestions. Before visiting campus, you can post a project. If you know, for instance, you're going to be there at the career fair in a couple of months. If you've already engaged students, you've been on campus, you're working with faculty, you can use this to keep them warm. If you're getting too many resumes and you're trying to understand who's the right fit or has the interest, we've run great programs like the one I showed you where you can use the projects almost as an audition or test drive. All you need to do, though, to do any of these things is there's a QR code, and I'll try to see if I can copy the link and put it in the chat. Here we go. Or use the link in the chat. Let us know about a full-time job role you have or a summer internship. On that page, there's a form you can fill out with that. Even if it's just a couple of bullets, I'm going to a conference and need some help crunching the list. I need someone to help write an article or update a website or any number of things. There's also some project templates there. All you need to do is use the QR code or the link and let us know. We're happy to help create a project for you. We're happy to share ways that you can leverage this right now with no lift. So with that, I'm going to take a breath, see if we have any questions in here. I see a comment, need to run to another meeting, interested in more details for the organization. Thank you so much for sharing that, although I guess you're at another meeting. So you're not going to hear my response, but we will send it. I think you put that I'm going to copy your contact info. I think you put it just for the hosts and panelists. So I copied it and put it in the chat for everyone. Love the question. What's the normal percentage to students versus Parker Dewey? Polly, thank you so much for asking that question. When it's not the IEDC funding it, 90% of the price that you set goes to the student. And it's all very, very clear when you're posting your project. So I have this project. I think it's going to take 20 hours to get done. I want to pay $500. What the student will see, and again, it's right on the screen, is the student will see that 90% of that, which is $450, Parker Dewey retains 10% of every project. The reason we do this is because, to be blunt, it covers our cost. It covers our cost of having the student on our payroll. Again, as you know, sending money through the banks and everything else, they all charge. It also covers our cost of issuing 1099s or other accounting documents to them at the end of each year. So again, that covers the cost. To the extent you work with a micro intern, you say, gosh, Jeff is amazing, and I want to hire him for a summer internship or full-time role or just directly part-time. To be crystal clear, there's no other costs or fee. And that has nothing to do with the IEDC program. That is true Parker Dewey since day one across the millions of students that we've worked with. No temp to perm, no conversion fee. We are not a staffing firm. We want to create those pathways that lead to better hiring, not get in the way of them. I see a question about small business, or does it work better for larger scale companies? Naomi, the answer is both. To be blunt, I wish it worked only well with one company or one industry or one department. Make my life easier. In reality, it works across every organization. We'll see very, very small companies ranging from one person startups use it just because they need an extra set of hands. Or maybe they're making a hire and the cost of getting a hire wrong is just such a big deal. Beyond the financial costs, when you're a small business, it's just difficult. Or maybe they don't have the brand recognition. They want to recruit at IU Northwest, but when they come to the career fair, again, the students are flocking to the well-known brands, giving out away T-shirts and iPads or something. So we'll see it used that way to start to build relationships. But even really large companies use it. We're working with a number of very large companies in Indiana, some of which also have that brand recognition issue. The college student doesn't know because it's a B2B company versus a B2C. Again, it's not Pepsi, it's not Google. Or it might be a company the student knows well, like Yamaha, but they're not really thinking about roles there. They have preconceived notions. Or we'll see, again, some of the largest companies using it to reinforce. Again, getting insights on the skills, starting to build relationships with first and second year students. At IU Northwest, with so many commuting students, they're not always able to attend the on-campus events and other ones. We're seeing a lot of strategies tied to that. I'd really welcome the opportunity to, again, talk offline and share more examples. Lance, to the question about the timing of this, IEDC just continued the funding again this year. I know it's first come, first serve, so I can't promise when it's going to run out or not. They've also extended it a couple of times with more funding, which again says a ton, but again, we don't know for sure if that's going to continue to happen. My suggestion is while the funding is there, if you have a small project on your plate, if you're interested in testing this for recruiting or anything else, go for it. That is my suggestion while it's there, just because I don't know for certainty. And again, happy to talk through that. So they're more just office research type projects. What if our company also needs field service projects? One of the things we found is, first of all, about 97, 98% of the projects are done remote. They're projects that a student can do from whether it's the dorm, house, apartment, library, whatever. That ensures it's accessible to students. So you might be a local employer, but the student has a full workload. Or maybe you're in Chicago or Indianapolis and the students at IU Northwest can't necessarily get down there during the day to do a real project on site. So we'll see that. Or maybe there's just not the space in your office or security concerns. We've seen that with some of the financial services with having someone in the office. So we've seen the projects typically be remote. For projects that are field service oriented, we've done a really, really good job working with companies to craft micro internships tied to field service types of roles that still fit within the profile of that. And I probably need to know a little bit more about your organization. Happy to talk offline and we can make recommendations. But they, again, should be projects that don't require training. They're not high stakes. We actually did something for Amazon in Indiana around this. They were looking for students who were studying robotics and mechatronics. and it was to work in the distribution centers on, again, multi-million dollar pieces of equipment. The micro internship was not on site messing with a multi-million dollar piece of dangerous equipment, but they had students doing things like create a field manual that can be used or best practices for how to train new employees on it. It wasn't because Amazon necessarily needed that project done. It was they were using it to drive interest from the student, but also get insights on the skills. As far as initial funding, all of the projects are funded per project. I believe they are $400 a project, scoped to be about 20-hour projects. I apologize. I need to look and confirm, but it's on the website. It's all automatic, though. There's nothing you need to worry about. It's all pre-scoped. Any other questions from the audience? Anything else the folks from IU Northwest want to add? How would I know if my posting for my company would be covered by IEDC? If you use the link that I put in the chat, it's all automated. It's like magic. We take care of it, Princess Graham. So I don't know if your first name's Princess or if it's a handle. So
Oh,
everything is covered. Everything is covered. Nothing you need to stress about. Anything else?
If anybody have any questions as well, they can reach out to me, and then I will also be able to give you the contact information.
And then we also have a dedicated email set up for the IEDC program that you can use. So again, I just dropped it in the chat. You can either use the form on the screen, or you can certainly, let me see what happens. Let's click on this live. So here literally is the form. We are in the live one. Again, there's some templates here. Here's the form at the bottom. Really, really, really simple. So feel free to use any of that, contact us, and we're happy to help. Do you want to close us out?
Thank you again, everyone, for attending. Again, if you have any questions, my name is Aaliyah Mabel, and you are free to reach out to me via email or phone call. Again, thank you so much, Jeff, for hosting this event for us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm just such a huge fan of the entire IU system. I think what the state is doing is just, it's so incredible. With everything going on right now around post-secondary education and college and what AI is going to mean and everything else, seeing a state like Indiana step up in this way and create a program like this in collaboration with the IU Northwest team is just, it's awesome. It's awesome. So
It
I'm
really
so proud to be associated with it.
Thank you again for coming. And again, you can reach out via email or phone call. Thank you, everyone.